This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, we're gonna get back on that train because we're gonna be traveling all over the world. First, we're going to be in France. We're gonna be going all over France, including Paris, of course. And then we're going to be going way out west of the United States to some of the smaller cities in the western half of the United States. Today we're taking a look at the latest map pack for Ticket to Ride, France, and out west. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of how this is different from the original Ticket to Ride, and then I'll see you on the other side for my final thoughts. Here is the very colorful French side of this expansion board. Sometimes you'll be going to specific countries like Spain. Sometimes you'll be going to see specific regions, or Italy or Switzerland and other countries in the game. Now the big difference is you can see a lot of this is just gray. We'll get to that in a moment, but normally you can, play a card of a specific color and play one of your single trains here. By the way, any of the double or triple routes on the game are like normal, only play with 4 or 5 players, but these routes that have colors, you can play cards as normal. But for all of these other ones, anytime you pick up the train cards that you use to place trains, you'll also, in addition to picking up the 1 or 2 cards, mostly 2, but 1 if you're picking up a wild, you will take one of these and you'll immediately place it out on the board. So if you had a lot of green in your hand, you might put this here. Now anybody can throw down 2 green cards or any wilds like normal, and be able to actually go here. When you go here, you actually put the trains there, and then this goes back into the pile, because these are somewhat limited. There's only a certain amount of each color and of each size, and they might be on the board, or they might be able to be put on the board like this. But as soon as you build on here, you take this off, you put it back, and trains would go there. So you're literally building the board as things go. You can also build to actually cut other routes off. So let's say you grab some cards and you place this here. Well, what this means is this route can never be used in the entire game. And so sometimes you're cutting off all sorts of routes. For example, here you see this has cut off this route of the game, and this has cut off this route in the game. Now there's fairies in the game and they work the same way as previous Ticket to Rides, where if you're going here, anytime you see a fairy, you have to use a wild, and then in the other gray spots, you have to use all the same color and or wilds like normal. Now at the beginning of the game, you're going to get 5 tickets. You have to keep at least 3. And then later on, if you decide to take tickets, you'll take 4 and you have to keep at least 1. Also keep in mind, the points are pretty much the same as normal Ticket to Ride, and you're only using 40, so you'll end up putting 5 of the trains back at the beginning of the game. Now the tickets themselves in this game range anywhere from 3 points for short routes, 18 for very long routes, and some of the routes might be just normal like city to city, some might be from countries to city, and some might be very long routes like this, or even from this one like country to country. And there's also a 15-point Globetrotter bonus for the most completed tickets, and the 10-point bonus for the longest train. And that's pretty much the difference in France. Let's move over to the other side, which is out west. Now here's the map for the out west, and savvy Ticket to Ride players might notice there's some starting cities that are getting set up. Also, you might notice there is a white piece here because this game also brings in white trains and white cities. And so now you can play as the white trains. Now you're only going to use 40 of the trains, so you'll put 5 back. You'll get 5 tickets to start the game. You got to keep at least 3, and then throughout the game, when you take more tickets, you have to take 4, and you have to keep at least 1. We'll talk about building cities here in just a moment. Scoring here, you got a little bit different. You have the 7, so you have 18 points for a 7 route. Here's what the ticket deck looks like in this game, and tickets range anywhere from 4 points for very small routes to 21 for the largest route in the game from Seattle to Roswell. Now during setup, after everyone has taken their tickets, starting with the last player in player order and going counterclockwise, so the first player picks last, each player puts one of their 3 cities that they have of their color out into the city of their choice that doesn't already have somebody else's city in it. Now on the first turn that you have, you can place anywhere outgoing from your starting city. So if I play a pink card, I can go here. By the way, the double and triple routes are only for 4, 5, or 6 players, because as we introduced the white trains, it also introduces you being able to play up to 6 players on this map. Then on a subsequent turn, when you build a route, you can either, again, go from any of your cities, or you can build off of where you're going. So for now, I could either go this way, because I am creating a network, or off of any of the spots from my city. So you're always going to be building from cities or from the ends of some of your routes. You can't just build in all sorts of random spots like the normal Ticket to Ride. Now you might be wondering about Roswell and what this is going on. Well, this is Alvin. They're bringing the name Alvin back. Now, if you build there, you actually will get to take the alien Alvin token. So let's say I did this. You can move this to any one of your cities that you have. It can also be your starting city. Now, and you immediately get 10 points. Now, if someone else comes here and builds to this city, they get to take it, they get the 10 points, and they have to put it in one of their cities. Sooner or later, it's probably going to end up somewhere that no one wants to go, or in a spot in a city that is completely full, meaning it has routes going all the way in so no one else can get there. If you have Alvin at the end, you'll also get 10 points. So that points can sort of move around throughout the game, but whoever has it at the end will keep the 10 points. So essentially, whoever got it last is getting 20 points just from being the last player to take it. 10 for taking it, and 10 for having it at the end. So what's all about these cities? Well, a couple of things. Number one is, as I mentioned earlier, you start by going out there. You can always build off of one of your cities. However, if you're building a route, let's say I just played 3 green, and I went here. If it's going into a city of somebody else, that player is going to get the points. And so with 3 trains, this player would get 4 points. So when you go into cities of other players, you're going to give them the points. If there was another city here, then both players would get those points. However, after you've built anywhere, you can throw in 2 more extra cards of the same color. So I could throw 2 additional greens to build a city on either side that's open. So in this case, I could build another city right here in Flagstaff. You could also use wild locomotive cards as part of this building up the city, which is my favorite part of the board because I live in Phoenix and I quite often go to Flagstaff in the summers to get out of the heat. So now I've got another city here. So now I could build off this or off the end of my network somewhere else or off the end of my starting city. So any of the cities or off the end of the networks gives you more options as to where you can go. And there's also a ferry route, which works the same way as all the other ferries in Ticket to Ride, which means when you go on this route here, each of the ferries has to be wild. And at the end of the game, I mentioned the Alvin points, but there's also the Globetrotter bonus, 15 points for the most completed tickets. And there's just a final look at some of the board, where some of the drawings inside makes the board look nice. All right, first I'm gonna go through France pros and cons and then out west pros and cons. So for France, I love how it has basically one main rule change, but it makes the game feel entirely different. I mean, every time you pick up those cards, the different train cards, you now have to lay a track, and just that little bit adds so much because it's much more thinky. Because when you're trying to figure out what to do, where to go, where should you put the new route? What color should it be? Should I be telegraphing maybe where I want to go because I have 3 blacks on my hands and I want to get the 3 black and I want to put it right next to where my trains are? Everyone might telegraph that and see what's going on, and they might say, is he going to go there? And if they have the cards to maybe block me, they can go there themselves. So it gives sort of this fear that, hey, I'm putting this here, and I might be wanting to go there. But it makes it a lot more thinky as to where you can go. It's very open-ended, and so it makes the game much more thinky than I thought it was going to be. It also makes the game very cutthroat. Because you could be seeing someone coming down, the coast region or whatever, going to a certain area, and you see them built, putting those tiles out of the different routes colors so that they can go there, and you could either just block them, just say, oh, I bet you they're going there, I'm just going to block them, or to make it even worse, you could see where they're going, and you could cut them off by playing a piece that then makes the route that you think they're going to go to completely irrelevant and not able to be built onto the game. So very cutthroat here. I think that the Africa version used to be the most cutthroat. This one is probably as cutthroat, if not even more. The other thing you could do to mess people over is you could see where someone's possibly going. You could say, hey, they've been picking up a lot of orange cards. There's a 4 route right there. I'm going to take the orange 4 out of there and place it on my turn. And then maybe they're all gone, right? And so now they can't even get the track that they really want. So there's all of these different ways and different levels of depth that you can play this game at. Again, much like the original one, you can kind of play it sort of loosey-goosey, but you can play it very cutthroat and very strategic as well. And because of that, you really have to pay attention to what their opponents are drawing. Now, in the regular game, a lot of times you're paying attention to who might be drawing the same cards as me. Are they trying to go to the same spot as me? But here it's even more, because when you're picking up the tracks, again, the decisions that you make, having the knowledge of what people have been picking up will really telegraph maybe what they're trying to do, and you can do things like I had just mentioned. And finally, each map does end up looking very different because of the different routes, because of the different colors, because of the different, cutting off the different areas. So those are all the positives. Any negatives? Well, just in the setup, it does take a little bit of time to separate all the right routes out. So a little bit more time in setup. In this game, this version might be too cutthroat for some because it can be pretty darn mean. And so pretty much that's France. Really loved it. One of the best maps I've played. So let's go on to Out West. Now I love Out West because it's the area of the country that I live in. It's the west side. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. And so it has the area there. We also travel quite often to Flagstaff, Arizona, which is a small train town. And that city's there too. So it's really cool for me. I love the look and feel of the board. And I love where the area is, obviously, because I live there now. I love how the starting cities and as you build more cities and how they score. So you've even got decisions to make right off the bat as to where am I going to build my city. Well, I want to make it somewhere in the middle of where everything I'm going, but I also want to make it places where I think more people are going to go because, as I showed you in the overview, you'll get points for that. So I love how those score that way. So it's like, hey, if you go into someone else's city, you're going to have to pay for it because they're getting the points. Same with you. If you can put a city where you think some people are going to have to go through, well, they're going to be giving you the points for that. It can be a very interesting thing. So it does completely change the way you play in this regard because, again, you have to go and create your route off of one of your cities or where an end of one of your routes are. So you're somewhat more limited as to where you can play, but it also changes sort of the dynamics of the game. For example, you're forced to build in that order. So it's like, okay, if I just have one city at the beginning of the game and I can either go, off anyway. Okay, I start building a train, I can either continue that train or still build off the city. I start to build a second route. Okay, so now it's off just those two cities. So you're going in this sort of different way of playing where regular Ticket to Ride, you can build over here, you can build over here, you can build over where you want. Where here, it's more like in a row, which brings up two interesting points. Number one is it can facilitate more blocking because you're pretty much telegraphing where you're going and people are knowing which direction you're actually heading most likely. However, you can't always just block when you want because on the other side, it also gives you more time to lay cards to not get blocked. Because if you're at a certain area of the map and there's nobody else even that has a city or a train route near there, well, you don't have to worry about being blocked there yet because no one can do it. No one's going to be able to do it because they can't build there yet. So it's weird because sometimes it can be extra blocky, but at other times it can be more, more at ease, if you will. So it really changes the dynamic of the game up. I really like the Alvin points, where you're going to get the alien and then you pick it up and you can put it somewhere else. Sometimes you can strategically place this into a city that no one else is going to be able to go to, so you'll end up with the 10 points at the end. But moving things around, I like that aspect of it as well. Anything I didn't like about it? Well, there's less options for playing because you can't just play willy-nilly anywhere. You've got to build on the cities or on the routes. So your choices as to where you can play right now are less, which means in general you're going to be picking up cards more often than playing cards, more than the regular game. And some people I played this with did not like that. They said, I don't even like Ticket to Ride that much because I feel like I'm drawing too many cards. And here I feel like I'm really drawing too many cards. It didn't bother me. I did notice it sometimes. I just couldn't get the cards I needed and that's partially probably my fault because I didn't have enough routes going off my city at the beginning, so I was sort of stuck as to just looking at a couple of different places I could play. But that was just the way I happened to play that game. It didn't really bother me that much because the whole experience of this map, again, like all the other maps, little twists, but feels very different. I agree with this. I enjoyed it. I would probably play this map anytime you ask. I don't think it's the best map out there. I definitely like the France map better of the two of these because it's definitely more thinky, more gamery. But for a sort of more of the beginner Ticket to Ride players, if they want to step it up one more notch, this is a great way to do it. So that's what I think about all this in the end. I really love this whole map pack. I like that they did add more trains of the white ones. And this has been the Game Boy Geek, helping you find and enjoy the next board game you'll love.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.